Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism. So have you ever had this happen? You're a nice person. You want to do something nice for someone. You're not expecting anything in return. Maybe you're going to help a friend who's sick for a few days or something like that. And the narcissistic person tells you, you don't do that. That's a waste of time. Have you ever had that happen? Drop that in the comments and let's take this on. Because this is an interesting issue, right? Basically, they want you to look as unempathic as they do. I was chatting with someone recently. It's where a lot of these videos come from, the conversations I have. I was talking with someone recently whose narcissistic husband, was criticizing her and shaming her for wanting to help a neighbor who was going through an illness. He said, they have plenty of money. She can figure something out and pay someone. Don't waste your time. Has she ever helped you? Ironically, in this story, it turned out that the neighbor had. And when the person telling me the story, so the person who was sharing this with me, she had some time ago gone through chemo for cancer, and this neighbor had been scrupulous about helping her with many things, including rides to chemo when the narcissistic husband wouldn't make time for her. But this is a story that I have heard repeatedly, that the narcissistic person will criticize, ridicule, even shame a person who is close to them for helping someone else. The help could be for someone like the neighbor in the story that I'm sharing, that the neighbor was sick and the person wanted to help them. It could be that you're helping another family member, like your sibling or parent or someone else in the family. It could be for a colleague or an elderly family member or friend. And the narcissistic person will tell you that you're wasting time, money, effort, and they'll really boil it down to a very strict quid pro quo. What did they ever do for you? The narcissistic person will tell you that you're being played for a sucker, that you're always the one doing stuff for people. Do you really think that they're going to be there for you when you need help? Or they'll say that they were never there for you. Even, as in that earlier story I shared with you, it's completely untrue. Now, this story, that I'm kind of a story like this, a variation on a theme repeated in someone else I talked with. This other person told me how she had been helping the elderly father of her own narcissistic husband, and she was helping her own aunt. These were two elderly people. Both of these elderly people lived quite a distance from them, about a 2-hour flight. And this woman kept getting on a plane, and she had a nursing background, so she was able to weigh in and make recommendations for their care in the various hospitals and healthcare settings. But largely what she did was she sat at their respective bedsides and was a comfort to them, fetching them things that they needed, advocating for them, talking with family members. And in this case, the husband, the narcissistic husband, whose father the lady telling me the story is caring for, it's his father, not hers. Okay, remember, it's the husband's father, not hers. When she says, can you come and see your dad? The narcissistic husband says, I can't spare the time, and that she's wasting her time and wasting his money. And of course, he had plenty. Flying to see these older people. Let the nurses and doctors take care of it. That's what they're paid for, is what he would say. His family, her narcissistic husband's family, actually found this woman's presence very comforting as they managed the grief of this impending loss. And she was giving up time for his father, and not only was her husband not thanking her, he was actually criticizing her and was very angry at her. Narcissistic people are often quite surprised and then quickly somewhat disgusted when they see people doing kind, nice, or helpful things for other people without being asked. It just doesn't really compute for them. And they're really surprised when you do something nice for someone and there's no give back, that you're helping someone and you aren't getting paid, or you aren't getting an Instagram post out of it, or getting effusive thanks. This idea that another person would just do a nice thing because it's empathic, man, that doesn't register for them. So from the start, your helping behavior doesn't make sense. That said, they still don't want you to do it. Why not? Well, let's break down a few reasons. First, that the narcissistic people are actually selfish enough, especially if you're a person in their life who does lots of stuff for them. For example, if you're a spouse, partner, or family member who takes care of stuff for them, like cooking or cleaning or working, that if you take the time for this other person who may need your help, that you are taking time away from them. Well, I hope that driving all the way down, they'll say things like, well, I hope that driving all the way down there to give her groceries doesn't mean dinner isn't going to be on time, that kind of thing. The infantile egocentricity of a narcissistic person means that their needs are first, always first, even if someone else is in far greater need. And they don't like that you're helping might get in the way of them getting their needs met. But it's not just as simple as selfish. For narcissistic folks, it's all about how things look, and they sure as hell aren't going to go and help an older family member or bring meals and groceries to someone, again, unless they can Instagram the hell out of it. So you doing it makes them, well, at least they think it makes them look and maybe even feel bad, but really it's about the looking bad. If you go there, and heaven forbid that you go there to help, and heaven forbid there are other people to see it or who may know about it, that you're going to go and help or take care of someone, then they're going to see that the narcissistic person didn't show up to help, or that you did, and maybe now people are praising you, which they may experience as them not getting noticed. Well, that doesn't work for them. Remember, it's always about them. So even though someone may need help, they definitely don't like the idea that you could help someone and that ultimately that could leave them looking bad. Remember, narcissistic people aren't psychotic, nor are they diagnostically delusional. They know what looks good and they know what looks bad. And you helping, yeah, it can make you look good, but the problem is potentially it could make them look bad. And they don't want that. Basically, what they need is for you not to look better than them. Maybe for you to look as bad as them, but they don't think they look bad. So they will rail at you for wasting time, money, resources, for being a sucker, for not attending to your other responsibilities. Anything that may affect you in a way that will leave you maybe holding back and saying, maybe I shouldn't help. And this isn't just caregiving help I'm talking about, like offering to babysit or cook or clean or just sit with someone. This may even happen in professional situations where you will be shut down by a narcissistic person if maybe you're going to offer free mentorship or professional guidance. They may frame it as you wasting your time helping someone who can't help you. And that's something that they would experience as weak or foolish, and certainly not something they would do without a lot of praise or a lot of money. They simply would not offer that kind of free help unless they were getting something back. Narcissistic people can seem quite altruistic, though, if they're getting something out of it. Now, what could they get out of helping someone? An example would be posting to social media their helping behavior, helping someone in front of a crowd. You may see the narcissistic person being sort of performatively helpful if everyone else is there to see them bring in the groceries or run the vacuum or sit at the hospital bed. Or you will see them bringing the neighbor the dinner that you prepared and then creating a video that they post. There is no giving without them getting that get. But all of that said, if you find yourself being shut down, criticized, or mocked for offering help, guidance, caregiving, help when they're in a tough spot, or just regular help by a narcissistic person, it can help to recognize the dynamics underlying this. There are very simple principles at play here. Narcissistic people are too selfish to help someone else, and they don't want to look bad, and they don't want someone not doing things for them. You can't let it stop you. It's good for our souls to be out there and helping other folks. And what gets very, very interesting here is an observation that you'll see in many cases, not all, but in many, that sometimes as a narcissistic person gets up there in years, gets to their older years and may need help, there's often not a lot of people around who are willing to help them unless the narcissistic person has them on a financial chain or somehow trauma bonded or something like that. That's the only way the narcissistic person is going to get help. But let's say the narcissistic person doesn't have kids or the kids long ago went no contact. They are often folks who will, if they're old and infirm, it can get real ugly real fast because all that stuff, all that helping they didn't do, kind of, there's where karma can bite them in the ass. But if a narcissistic person has money, they're even covered there, because if you have enough money, you'll always be able to afford caregiving. But they're not thinking like that. Above all else, they think it's foolish to just give it away. And we all know what this is all about. It is that chronic low empathy that obviously is such a big part of the narcissistic picture. They just don't have that visceral reaction to want to help someone else. And they will often view other people who are sick or in need as an inconvenience, as a problem, as something that they simply don't want to deal with. And it's easier to pathologize and devalue the people who step up and help than to view themselves as the problem. And then when you think of this from the self-righteous narcissism lens, a lot of narcissistic folks will say, well, this is their problem for not planning, as though anyone could ever plan to have a severe illness or some other obstacle that shows up that you can't plan for. But they can be very judgy. Well, you shouldn't have had kids if you can't take care of them, that kind of thing. Or, well, you should have taken better care of yourself. And that kind of self-righteousness is how the narcissistic person kind of rationalizes not only their unwillingness to help, but their shaming of other people that do. So if you're doing that help giving, caregiving, just goodness in your world, keep it up. Heaven knows the world needs more of it. But when the narcissist poo-poos you or makes you doubt it, understand why they're doing it. Thanks again.